We're live. We live.
We are live. Welcome everybody to the Black Therapy Show. We have a very special guest coming for you today. We are super excited. We have an actual historian because, as you know, we are not actual therapists. So we actually have a professional on the show today. So we want to welcome everyone to the show. Kevin, as usual, is on the road. Kevin is the working comic. Kevin, where were you? You were in the Carolina?
I was in Greensboro, North Carolina this past weekend. Greensboro. It was a good week. Yeah, good week at the office.
So let me introduce our guest. He's the founder of the African History Network show. Comes on at 9 p.m. on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. He's also a regular on the Roland Martin show, Roland Martin Unfiltered show. I love Roland Martin. Former host of the nationally syndicated radio show, the Michael
Imhotep.
Imhotep.
I wanted to say because I wanted to show off that I knew how to pronounce.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Show off.
I googled it and then I asked to pronounce it for me. So I wanted to seem like I knew what I was talking about.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Michael Imhotep. Host of the nationally syndicated radio show, the Michael Imhotep Show. Let's welcome Michael Imhotep, folks.
Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome.
How y'all doing today?
Good, man.
History buff, and he's gonna drop some knowledge on us today. The title I titled the show today: Why did Black people take our foot off the gas? I kind of feel like a lot of Black people feel like we have arrived and we're kind of relaxing right now because it seems like we're okay, and obviously we're not okay, but I think we are too comfortable, even though things are not where they're supposed to be. So Mike is going to give us some history lessons today. So
okay, So why did Black people take their foot off the gas?
Yeah, we're going to get into it. So I'll show a couple of videos.
Okay,
we're going to kick it off.
All right, no problem.
All right. And just a note, when I typed in, folks, the people watching African history, and I searched TikTok for videos, I'm telling the audience, everything came up. Everything was about slavery. I'm like, my God, isn't there any good stuff about African history?
I'm gonna have to start uploading videos because I have thousands of them on my YouTube channel. So I'm at I have a TikTok channel, but I haven't uploaded anything. I'm gonna have to start uploading things to TikTok.
Yeah, and we also gonna get into why we don't seem to care about African history. If you start talking about Kanye and the Kardashians, or you talk about Will and Jada, you get a million views. But once you start talking African history or Black history, then the numbers go way down. So we're also going to get into that as to why that is. And it's kind of saddening, but that's the world we live in. All right.
Jewish people have a lot of movies about that pain, and Black people have a lot of movies about the pain of slavery, right? It's almost impossible to find a movie about Mansa Musa. When you go to the African History Museum in Washington, D.C., it doesn't start with the idea of Africans being kings. It starts with the idea of Africans being slaves.
All right, that's the thing. Kanye.
Okay.
So we got a couple more.
Historical African Facts I Bet You Didn't Know. Part 1. Emperor Mansa Musa of Mali was history's wealthiest individual. During his 14th century pilgrimage to Mecca, he spent so much gold that he unintentionally caused inflation across Egypt. The Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, constructed over 4,500 years ago, held the title of the world's tallest man-made structure for a staggering 3,800 years. Imhotep, an African-born Egyptian, was not only an accomplished architect, but also the first recorded physician in history, influencing generations of healers. Zimbabwe ruins, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, showcase impressive stonemasonry and urban planning dating back to the 11th century. It's a true marvel of African history. Africa boasts the world's oldest university, Al-Qarawiyyin, founded in 859 CE in Fez, Morocco. But here's the incredible part. It's still operating today, making it the oldest continually functioning degree-granting university on Earth.
All right, folks, here we go.
With the knowledge you gain, break away from the chains. We helping you grow the Black Therapy Show. We in a safe space, dealing with the black trauma. We unpacking and inspecting all our baggage and drama. Cause we gotta unite, no more killing each other. It's time to see a new future for my sisters and brothers. Heaven calling Tiffany, you'll have an epiphany. We'll give you everything you need to handle the enemy. We be giving you everything, we gon' challenge you mentally. The right conversation so you grow exponentially. We built your penitentiaries, we built all your schools. Gave the brainwash education, just making us fools. Hatred was what we got in exchange for love. No more manipulation from my God up above. No, it's called Heaven and Tiffany. Now welcome to the Black Therapy Show. Let's go.
Yeah, thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. We are super excited today to have our special guest, Michael Imhotep. Imhotep
Yes,
stands for He Who Comes in Peace.
correct. In the ancient Medu-Neter language, yes, the ancient language of the ancient Egyptians, yes.
All right, and Michael is a African history buff, and he's gonna, like I said earlier, drop some knowledge on us.
Well, I'm a historian.
Sorry.
Talk show host, political commentator, lecturer, yes,
Okay,
writer.
Yes. And because everything we see about Africa, we always see the kids with the flies on their head, or we always see the lions and the giraffes. We never get the true history of Africa. And before I get into that, I want to welcome some shout out to Sharon Gooden, who's joined us on YouTube. Jeff Short was is a new subscriber from last Sunday, and he's back. Thank you, Jeff, for checking in. Nicole Coates, thank you so much for checking in. Gina Fiore, highly favored. I can't get everyone because we got to get into the show. So today's show is titled, Why Did Black People Take Our Foot Off the Gas? And Michael started to talk about that. And I don't know if you want to start with that, Michael.
Yeah, let me do this. Let me comment on a couple of those videos, if I could, that you just showed.
Sure.
So we saw Kanye West, and it's good you show that. Now, I'm not a big fan of Kanye West, but it's good as you show that. So he talked about a discrepancy between the types of movies that Jewish producers or Jews in general may produce, like dealing with the Holocaust, okay, for instance. Not all their movies deal with the Holocaust, but they still have movies that deal with the Holocaust. And then he talked about slavery, but why don't you see movies about African people when we were ruling the world? He mentioned Mansa Musa. And one of the problems is that we have to understand that the media is programming, okay? So my degree is not in history, it's in business administration with a major in marketing. The foundation of marketing is psychology as well as philosophy. So whatever is disseminated becomes imitated. So you can control a people by the imagery that you project to a people. This was one of the criticisms of what we term as the blaxploitation movies of the 1970s, coming out of the civil rights movement, going into the Black Power movement. We saw that Richard Roundtree just passed away. Richard Roundtree starred in Shaft, which came out in 1971, which was one of the first of the blaxploitation movies. Now, it wasn't stereotypical like some of the other movies were, but that comes out 3 years after Dr. King's assassinated, April 4th, 1968. What's interesting, it was MGM Studios, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Studios, that produced the film, directed by Gordon Parks, okay, the photographer and writer Gordon Parks. So what we see historically is that the dehumanization of African people has always been entertainment for this country. Okay, whether we talk about the minstrel shows going back to 1820 to 1829 and T.D. Rice, Thomas Dartmouth Rice creating the minstrel shows, or if we talk about the movie The Birth of a Nation, which debuted February 8th, 1915, and all the negative stereotypical images of African Americans were depicted in that movie. The movie helped rejuvenate the Ku Klux Klan. It caused race riots in the streets, but something very interesting happened. The movie was directed by D.W. Griffith, which we know, and was shown at the White House for President Woodrow Wilson, who was a virulent white supremacist. But it was distributed by Louis B. Mayer. Louis B. Mayer takes the profits that he makes from the movie, distributing the movie The Birth of a Nation. He teams up with two other men named Metro and Goldwyn, and they form Metro Goldwyn Mayer Studios, largely from the profits that are made from dehumanizing African people in the movie The Birth of a Nation. Then in 1971, they produced this movie, put out this movie called Shaft. Okay, so when we understand a connection between imagery, history, power's the ability to define and shape reality and have other people accept your definition of reality as if it were their own, then we'll understand why we don't see movies that show us ruling the world. When they had Gods of Egypt, they had Europeans depicted as ancient Egyptians and as Neteru, or deities coming from ancient Kemet. Okay, so Kanye is right on that point. He's wrong on a whole lot of other stuff, but he's right on that point right there.
Wow, I had no idea that MGM was pretty much founded by the Klan, right?
I ain't say founded by the Klan, but no, Louis B. Mayer, profited. He was the distributor of the movie The Birth of a Nation.
Okay.
The Birth of a Nation, The Birth of a Nation is a 3-hour movie, debuted February 8th, 1915. It's on YouTube. It's a silent movie. Everybody can watch it.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, so the movie shows the Klan rising up to put down a rebellion of former Union Negro soldiers during the Reconstruction era. And incidentally, the movie The Birth of a Nation is based upon a novel called The Klansman by a man named the Reverend Thomas Dixon. Okay, and this movie is generally credited with rejuvenating the Ku Klux Klan in the 1910s going into the 1920s, because the Klan had largely died out by 1915.
Okay, I thought Birth of a Nation was made by a Klan member, because I mean I'm thinking only a Klan member would make a movie like Birth of a Nation.
You mean D.W. Griffith was a Klan member?
Yeah, I mean, to make that kind of movie.
Well,
the Klan,
you had Klan. I don't know for certain he was a Klan member, but you had Klan sympathizers at that time, because this is the 50th anniversary of not only the founding of the Ku Klux Klan, which was founded December 24th, 1865 in Pulaski, Tennessee on Christmas Eve, but 1915 was also the 50th anniversary of the end of the Civil War in April 1865, and also the end of slavery with the ratification of the 13th Amendment, December 6, 1865, when Georgia ratifies the 13th Amendment. So you had the South that was still upset about the Civil War, about their 3.9 million enslaved Africans or 3 million being freed. And there was still tensions between the North and the South. Okay, so all this is taking place in 1915, which is at the beginning of what becomes known as the Great Migration, which is 1915 to 1970, and 6 million African Americans migrating from the South up north and out west, looking for a better way of life.
Before we, I want to talk about the misconceptions a lot of people have about Africa. But before I get into that, every time we do a show about the relationship between Africans and African Americans and Black Africans from the Caribbean,
sure,
it's one of our hottest topics, hands down.
Okay.
A lot of African Americans feel like, and I know there's some truth to it, that Africans do not like African Americans, and Black people from the Caribbean, such as myself, do not like. They feel that we come to this country and we disrespect them. We don't show them, the respect that they deserve. It is by far the hottest topic that we discuss on this.
You said they come to this country and feel Africans from the Caribbean come to the U.S. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and the African Americans feel like we don't have any respect for them.
I've been told by Africans that I know personally that Americans are lazy. African Americans are lazy. We don't like to work hard for things and stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. What Carl just said. I mean, that most people come here think that, you know, we're lazy people. And,
Right. Can I address that? Oh, I'm sorry.
yes,
Go ahead.
sir. No, I'm saying, yeah, that
Okay.
pisses us off because I believe that, you know, the civil rights movement made it possible for a lot of people from other countries to get here and have what they have. You know, Dr. King and others, you know, paved the way for people to come to this country, you know, from Caribbean places or Africa, and, you know, have doors open was because of African Americans who sacrifice, you know.
Right.
So for them to have that attitude, it's kind of like a slap in the face. And I know personally, I've been told that by African people that I've dealt with over the years.
Right. So let me address a couple of things here. First of all, going back to our first conversation, dealing with the media, and power is the ability to define and shape reality and have other people accept your definition of reality as if it were their own. And the dehumanization of African people has always been entertainment in this country. The imagery that is produced in this country by the entertainment complex is marketed around the world. These images dehumanize African people, African Americans specifically, and are projected around the world. So people around the world come to believe those images. So then when you come to this country and you're confronted with a real life person that has been misrepresented to you by tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of images, then you act accordingly based upon the programming. Okay, 1. 2, African Americans, because of the transatlantic slave trade, we have been largely stripped of our history, culture, language, spiritual systems, folklore, mores, names, identity, nationality, etc. So largely, we are a shell of a people when it comes to other people who we encounter who have those things intact to varying degrees. And it's a people's history and culture and language that they use to fight for scarce wealth, power, and resources in this country. Okay, so we have to reclaim our history. Okay, a people's history and culture teaches them how to deal with the problems of the past, in the present, and the future to meet the needs of the community. You mentioned the modern day civil rights movement. Okay, many of our people don't understand the modern day civil rights movement and don't understand that both Dr. King and Malcolm X were correct. And Malcolm X, when he officially separates from the Nation of Islam, March 8th, 1964, he joins the modern day civil rights movement, and he's focusing on interjecting Black nationalism into the civil rights movement. When Malcolm X meets Dr. King, March 26, 1964, their first and only meeting at the U.S. Senate debate for the Civil Rights Act in 1964, Malcolm tells Dr. King, "I'm throwing all of my effort into the heart of the civil rights movement." When Malcolm delivers the Ballad of the Bullet, March 29th, 1964, Washington Heights, New York, April 3rd, 1964 in Cleveland, Ohio, and April 4th, 1964 here at the historic King Solomon Baptist Church here in Detroit, where I live, he's talking about interjecting Black nationalism into the civil rights movement and radicalizing the civil rights movement. So we don't understand our history. It has been purposely taken back from us. So we have to reclaim our history. Bantu Stephen Biko, one of our great South African freedom fighters, said the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. We must take our minds back.
Yeah, Ashe. I feel the same. I've been telling Carl, and I believe that our West Indian sisters and brothers and African, they don't know our history. They don't know what we went through here because they're not taught that. The Queen and whoever was governing them never taught them our history. So when they come over here, they look at us like, what are y'all doing? Y'all lazy. No, it's not that. Right. We worked very hard to get here.
Right. They see us as not taking advantage of opportunity, but don't see how the movements that we've had in the past have been undermined by the government, undermined by corporate America, undermined by special interests, etc. There are improvements that we can make. We do need to hold those of us who put out negative images of ourselves accountable. We do need to do that. But we also need to go after the white corporate entities that produce those images and pay those people. So it ain't you can't just go after Sexy Red. You got to go after people who finance her. You can't just go after Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion or Rick Ross or Lil Wayne. You got to go after the people who finance them, because largely they won't allow white artists to dehumanize white people the way they allow African American artists to dehumanize us.
Mm-hmm.
So when a lot of people are introduced to us from other countries, maybe through watching a movie like Menace to Society, right?
Okay,
So,
introduce the African Americans by that imagery, that entertainment complex, marketing those images internationally. Yes,
but Menace to Society, as bad as it is a reality of America. You know, I mean, there are towns and places like that exist. You know, in South Central and other places. You know, so do we need to put out more positive movies? I mean, because there are positive movies, but a lot of people won't pay to seek positive movies. You know, you put out a positive movie, and it's not going to get a lot of numbers at the box office compared to Boys in the Hood or Menace to Society, etc. You know, but that goes both ways because Goodfellas didn't, you know, was a big box office smash, and it showed the worst side of Italian people.
right.
So,
Well,
you know,
when it comes to other people, oftentimes they have a greater variety of images of themselves that brings about more balance. Menace to Society was a segment of the African American community, but it was not the totality of the African American community. And what is oftentimes missing when you deal with, say, inner city African Americans, African American men trying to find their way, what years ago would be called coming of age movies, right? Like Sounder or different things like that. Coming of age movies. What was missing is the deindustrialization of the inner city post World War II, how factories and infrastructure were taken out and taken to the suburbs, how redlining was used coming from the federal government to restrict us from buying homes in the newly formed suburbs and restrict us from using the benefits, our GI Bill benefits signed into law in 1944 by President Franklin Roosevelt. And you had hundreds of thousands of African American men who were World War II veterans who were trying to take advantage of the benefits that they earned and that our taxpayer dollars paid for. But when they tried to get the low interest loans to buy houses in the newly formed suburbs, get funding to go to college, or get the low interest loans to start businesses like the white GIs were doing, okay, they're largely discriminated against from doing that in various ways, which causes a ripple effect. So then when you have that deindustrialization of the inner city, you have the U.S. Interstate Highway Acts of 1952 and 1956 that drive 41,000 miles of U.S. interstate highway all across the country. They run through the African American community, wiping out thousands of businesses that we had, wiping out our homes that some of us owned, disrupted our communities, okay? And then you're left with a shell of a community. So then the drug trade comes in, crack cocaine in the 1980s, or even going back to the 70s, heroin, things like this. That helps to fill the void of jobs and factories that are taken to the suburbs. So you have to deal with the background history before you get to Boys in the Hoods and guns being put into the community, but we don't own gun manufacturing companies, okay? You have to deal with the history that leads up to that. But when you look at movies, one of the reasons why the film Black Panther did so well and did $1.3 billion worldwide, that wasn't all black people, but it was a lot of African Americans in this country, is because it wasn't another slave movie. And even though slavery is an important part of our history, it's not the only part of our history. And what the film Black Panther did, and I've done extensive research on it, and I have a 3-hour lecture dealing with the film Black Panther, the history behind it, the 11 African cultures that we see represented in it, is it dealt with Afrofuturism. And it dealt with what Africa could look like if our history had not been interrupted by the transatlantic slave trade. Because Wakanda, the fictitious nation of Wakanda, their history was not interrupted by the transatlantic slave trade, and they are the most technologically advanced country on the face of the earth. But to hide that fact, to keep others from coming in, trying to colonize them and take what they have, they give the impression that they are a third world country, but they're not. Okay, they're the most technologically advanced country in the world. So we have to have a greater diversity when it comes to positive images, and these images help to educate people around the world, okay, about African Americans. But also we have to go after these entertainment companies that are putting out negative corporate controlled hip hop and continue to put out negative images of African Americans that dehumanize us.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Do you think do you believe it's too late?
No, it's not too late.
Question.
I don't think it's too late. Go ahead. Go ahead. Finish your question.
You said it's not too late because rap music, for example, we already know the best-selling rap music is gangster rap. You know, I mean, that's,
well, you look at the statistics. Rap is taking a hit. That's why you haven't. You've only had a handful, if maybe only one. Rap. I was looking at information dealing with this year and the lack of rap albums that have hit number one, like on Billboard, things like this. Rap. So right now we're dealing with negative corporate controlled hip hop. Okay. You're about to see a change because a lot of people are getting tired of stripper culture being infused into negative corporate controlled hip hop. Okay. And it's an oversaturation where all the women are sounding the same. I'm not going to use the language here on your show, but all the women are sounding the same. Back in the day, 95, 96, when it was largely Lil' Kim and Foxy Brown, I'm not saying it was acceptable, but it was more unique. Today, when all of them are doing it,
all of them,
and a lot of them can't rap, it's like at least Lil' Kim and Foxy Brown can rap. Okay, today when all of them are doing it, it's commercialized, and people are getting tired of this. People are getting fed up. Okay, so I think you're about to start seeing a shift, and I'm not the only one that's commenting on this. Yo commented on this at the Essence at the Essence Music Festival, which was broadcasted live on Hulu. I saw Megan Thee Stallion's performance. I did a video about it, broke it down. Yo before Megan Thee Stallion performed. Yo, the legendary hip hop artist, said we're going to have a conversation about a lot of this hip hop today. She said because she said a lot of this music is slut music. Her words, not mine. Now she knows more about hip hop than me because she's in the game.
Yeah,
okay.
Yes.
When you look at Trina performed before Megan Thee Stallion performed. Megan Thee Stallion made Trina look like a Girl Scout.
you ain't lying.
I saw Trina's performance. I'm like, this is some nursery rhyme stuff Trina's talking about compared to Megan Thee Stallion.
Trina was a real stripper too.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about this, okay? So what's happened is you've had stripper culture infused into negative corporate control hip hop. Trina was a rapper. Trina was a stripper before she was a rapper. Eve was a stripper before she was a rapper. But stripper culture was not infused into hip hop. Today it is. So it's a stripper mentality to see men only for their money, to talk about this P ain't free, all this stuff. When you start seeing this, okay, so those that have followed me for years, okay, just keep it 100. Okay, just keep it real. Those that have followed me for years know that back in the day, I used to manage a gentleman's club for 8 years, so I know the game. Okay, I did that part time. I had a friend. My degree's in business administration. It was a business. I had a friend who owned a gentleman's club. He wanted to take it to another level. He asked me to help him out part time with the club, so I did. So I learned the whole game. So that's why I see it when it's coming. I'm like, no. I know what I'm looking at. Okay, it's the same way how you have these influences. You have stripper culture, adult films, and the proliferation of adult films because of the internet, and then this gets into the general society. So if we look at tattoos on the lower back, okay, women, originally those are called tramp stamps. Why? Because the women that wore those originally were strippers, women in adult films, and what we call video vixens. Then, because of imagery, it gets promoted, and whatever's disseminated becomes imitated. So then it becomes, promoted and replicated by the masses. So we have to understand how these trends impact us. They impact the language we use, how we feel, our buying patterns, what we spend money on, things like this. Okay, this all deals with marketing. So I see this because my background's in marketing.
I remember back in the 1990s, we had MC Lyte, Queen Latifah, Miss Melody, Sister Souljah. We all had the hats with an X on it. We had Public Enemy.
Late 80s, early 90s. Yep.
Yeah, we had all this positive stuff, and
Mhm.
then it just went sideways. Just
That wasn't by accident. What happened was, so that was a larger context that was taking place was the Afrocentric movement. Dr. Leonard Jeffries, Professor James Small, Dr. Molefi Kete-Asante, Afrocentricity. I know that Dr. J and Professor Small are two of my teachers. Okay, I just interviewed Dr. Molefi Kete-Asante in April or May of this year, dealing with the Queen Cleopatra, the seventh controversy, and the documentary series from Jada Pinkett Smith, African Queens. So you had all this. You had Minister Farrakhan, you had Malcolm X, Dr. King. You had all that influencing hip hop, but this was at a time before late 80s. This was at a time before hip hop became really big and taken over by corporate America. So that positivity was allowed to flourish. There are four elements of hip hop. There's DJing, breakdancing, MCing, and graffiti. The fifth element was knowledge. We saw that KRS-One, Poor Righteous Teachers, Public Enemy, Brand Nubians. We saw all that in the music. You had positive female hip hop artists, whether it's Queen Latifah. You had don't forget the X Clan and ISIS from the X Clan, Lynn Q. Shout out to that sister. I interviewed that sister over 10 years ago, right? But then when it goes in, but what happened was, before it was really pushed in another direction where what we would call gangster rap took over and all this violence was interjected into it and proliferated beyond just Ice-T. Ice-T comes up about 86. He's like the original gangster rapper, but then it becomes replicated, NWA and others. What happened was conscious hip hop was influencing the actions of African-American youth. We wanted to go to college. We wanted to go to HBCUs. We were having massive sit-ins at colleges across the country demanding Africana Studies departments. It happened at Wayne State University, where I graduated from, because they did that in early 1989, and I started fall in 1989 and met some of the people in the sit-in. So it was influencing the conscious level. It was educating us about what's going on in South Africa. Apartheid in South Africa. Mm-hmm. It's educating us on world affairs. Now, it did the same thing to educate us that music did in the 60s, dealing with the civil rights movement and the Black Power movement. And I would argue that the powers that be said, we're not going through this again. We're going to co-opt this and send it in another direction. And that's what they did. And it's never recovered from that.
You're not lying. You're not lying about that, because that's why I got into hip hop. When I was like 12, I think I heard Self-Destruction.
Self-Destruction, absolutely.
That was,
Great
that
song.
lit me up. I loved it. It was exciting, and to see them all talking about stopping violence and
stopping violence
together.
Self-Destruction, East Coast, and then we're all in the same game, West Coast.
Yeah.
But I remember Rappers Delight, 1979, Sugar Hill Gang on the radio. But I was captivated, blown away, and was it 1981, I think it was, The Message, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, rats in the front room, roaches in the back, junkies in the alley with the baseball bat. I tried to get away, but I couldn't get far because a man with a torch repossessed my car. I'm like, whoa, what the hell is this?
You know, he made me look at the word broke my sacroiliac.
Yeah, broke my sacroiliac.
Yep. That's the on your back. I mean, like, I had no idea, but I was just about to mention the message. And
so what happened?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Paul.
They're saying that the beat is what's infectious today. Is this the beat?
Yeah, it's the beat.
But the message had a beat also.
But it's always the beat. But this beat is a synthesized beat. But what's happened is that, and then also you're dealing with sampling. So back when the message came out back in the early 80s, we weren't dealing with sampling. Generally speaking, it was more organic music. Today you're dealing with sampling. Sampling. What's largely happened is that, see, if you want to control a nation, you do it through the music, because the music hits the youth first. So you have a dumbing down in the messages in the music to dumb down a people, to suppress their ability to want to fight back. Then the other thing was in hip hop, you had a marketing campaign to market marijuana usage for at least the last 30 years in hip hop before it became legal. In certain states. So that's another thing, because it's hard to want to fight back when you're high. Okay, and then so then you're marketing not just marijuana, you're marketing alcohol. Okay, and a lot of these music videos, you notice they take place in strip clubs. They show alcohol consumption, things like this. And I challenge anybody to do this. Go look at the top 10 hip hop songs this week, and look at the music videos, and look at the imagery that's projected in the music videos. Then go look at the top 10 pop songs, popular music, top 10 pop songs. Go look at those videos. Go look at the imagery. Listen to the messages in the hip hop music. And I'm not against hip hop. I'm against negative corporate controlled hip hop. In hip hop, you don't hear a lot of messages dealing with love, marriage, relationships. You hear it more so in R&B music. Not every R&B song. You hear it more so in R&B music. Okay,
not anymore.
but we'll see hip hop. R&B has been infused with hip hop, but even if you listen to the top 10 R&B songs, you're still going to hear more references to love, marriage, and relationships than you will the top 10 hip hop songs. Now you're going to listen to the top 10 popular pop music songs. You're going to
if you listen to like Tank, for example, Tank's lyrics, and I like Tank, but if you listen to his lyrics compared to Joe's lyrics from the 90s, right?
Yeah,
two different things. You know, Joe was speaking more about love, and Tank is just talking
sex. Yeah, he has some songs like that. Tank has some songs about love. He has some songs like When We, right, is more about just sex, right? But still, if you go look at the top 10 R&B songs, you're still going to hear more references to love, marriage, and relationships. Now, it's not as much as you would hear in the 90s.
Yeah, the 90s.
Okay, but it's still going to be more than what's in negative corporate controlled hip hop today.
No,
that's programming to people. Okay, yeah. but then look at the top 10 pop songs, especially from white artists. Less references to drug usage, less references to alcohol, more references to relationships, love, marriage, things like this. Not every single song, but you're going to see a greater representation. So what happens to somebody when they drive to work and they have a 30-minute commute and they listen to the top 10 R&B songs and they're called a N-word, a B, a thought, all the way to work? What happens to that psychology? And the problem is you got to drive back home. This is programming. So we have to understand that we have to fight back against this. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. This is why African history, African American history is so important. It gives us our foundation. It gives us our values, our interests, and our principles, which gives us a cultural paradigm we see reality through. It influences our economic empowerment and our political empowerment and gives us our self-identity.
All right, well, strap on your seatbelts, folks, because I'm going to show you a video of a 6-year-old up-and-coming rapper. Are you guys?
Oh, God, here you go, Carl.
Strap on your seatbelts, because this kid is 6 years old. 6 years old, and if you can't understand some of his lyrics, part of his lyrics are, "If you ain't sucking my D, get out of my SHIT."
What? Are we going to get in trouble for this?
When did we get into trouble?
This is fair use only, educational purposes. We don't own no rights to this content. Go ahead, Carl.
All right, thank you, Tiffany. So this is 6-year-old rapper. His name is Little RT. All right, so strap on, sit down, take a shot of whiskey, whatever. Because this is
here we go.
You can get the fuck up on my shit. 100 round, hit him with his lock, take the fuck down. 100 round, bitch, we in that kill, we gon' take him down. 12 get behind, we gon' do 60 fucking miles. 12 get behind, fuck 60, do 200 miles. Caught him in traffic, 5 switches, we shot like 200 rounds. Ain't no little nigga, I ain't no bitch, big dog, 200 pounds. Only hopping on this song cause my gun big as his fucking child. Bitch, I'm fucking wild, nigga try this shit, get fucked around. He not fucking wild, nigga up this bitch, he ducking down. Ice bling blouse, snow on my neck, need a fucking plow. All these hundreds, I don't even give a damn, I need to fucking count.
Can I say something?
Right, hold on a second.
you find this stuff at, Carl?
That kid
Where?
is 6 years old. If you ain't sucking D, get out my ass.
So let me say something real quickly about that
Go ahead.
video, Carl. That is bad, but I'm gonna say this: that
Yeah.
kid's not gonna grow up, get an AR-15, and walk into a school and shoot up a bunch of kids. I'm gonna bet everything I own on that.
That is true.
Right.
But
So, my
Yeah,
point
you're
is,
right, but he
it
needs to
is
be.
bad, but we got kids. I'll say white kids that grow up in nice homes and nice neighborhoods, go to nice schools, and then they still run up in the high school or the shopping center and shoot up a bunch of innocent people with AR-15s.
yeah.
So this kid is being obviously taught the wrong thing at his age, but I think he's going to survive that, and who knows? I think that kid might grow up and just be a millionaire and a businessman. You know, I don't think his life is going to grow up like that music video was portraying him to be. That's just my
He
opinion.
needs to be
my
somewhere
opinion.
sleeping.
And I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying there's hope for that kid. But I'm just saying it's just that's bad for a 6-year-old to do that. But I don't think he's gonna have a bad future because of that. I don't think like I said, he's not gonna probably be a drug dealer. He's probably not gonna be a gangbanger. And he's definitely not gonna be a mass shooter.
Well,
Well. Most mass shootings don't take place at schools, so we just have to understand that. Mass shooting is basically 4 or more people being shot. Mass shootings happen at house parties. Mass shootings happen outside of liquor stores. Mass shootings happen outside of nightclubs, things like that. So most of the mass shootings are not at schools. Okay, so we just have to understand that. And I think if I'm correct, there's been about 300 mass shootings this year. So hopefully nobody calls Child Protective Services on that boy. But what is very concerning is how is he going to view black women when he has these misogynistic ideas at 6 years old? Hopefully he'll outgrow it. Hopefully he'll get around more positive people, because obviously the people that are around him are not that positive to allow him to do that. Okay, unless this just happened and his parents had absolutely no idea what he's doing, and they see this video and they're going to be shocked and forbid him to leave the house till he's 16 or something. I don't know, but because when the images that are projected to African American boys will influence African American girls. It influences how they see themselves, their self-esteem, the attention, the actions that they exhibit to get the attention of those boys. And the same thing, vice versa, the images shown to our girls. So we have to go after this entertainment complex that allows things like that to happen, because largely they have more respect for white artists. This is why I came out so strong against the song WAP by Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B. Because if you, I interviewed I did a panel discussion with 3 African American women. 2 of them were conscious hip hop artists, and 1 is an activist. And we went through and broke it down. And I dealt with adultification bias, because adultification bias in black girls deals with how negative stereotypical images of black women are projected onto black girls. Black girls are deemed as older, deemed as being less innocent, but also they're viewed as knowing more about sex at a younger age than white girls. And that deals with a history in this country, a legacy of slavery, but also the images that are projected to us. And I said they would never make a music video and have top white female artists in it using sexually explicit lyrics like Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B. And the hook to the song says there's some whores in this house. Now I know it's a song from Frank Skeeter in the 1980s. Yeah. He didn't have a video like that for the song. But when you watch the video, the only woman who's not of African descent was Kylie Jenner. So if you're repeating the lyrics approximately 79 times, there's some whores in this house, and it's basically black women in the video, then what are you saying? And then white people created an online petition because they wanted Kylie Jenner digitally removed from the video. Because basically, see, what we have to understand is you only protect what you respect. You only protect what you respect. Kylie Jenner is a billionaire from the Kardashian Jenner empire, and they thought she was too good to be in the video. So they didn't say destroy the video. They were basically saying it's all right for you Negroes to act like that.
But not the white.
This white woman, oh no, we're gonna rescue you. You don't belong in there. Let the Negroes be whores. That's what we expect of them. That's what we have taught them to be like. So and that came from Atlantic Records. So one of the things we have to look at is looking at where our 401k dollars are invested, our pension fund dollars, because a lot of times we're invested in these entertainment complexes and don't know it. And we're financing our own dehumanization. And you can change where your money is invested. It's happened before with privatized prisons. In New York in June of 2017, you had city employees in the city of New York. They found out they had $48 million invested in 3 privatized prisons. They took of their pension fund. They divested that money, put it somewhere else, because a lot of us are invested in privatized prisons and don't know it. It's through our 401k plans and pension fund plans. I'm not against 401k plans and pension fund plans. I'm against us financing our own dehumanization.
Right. Yeah, that WAP song was a bit much for me. Yeah, I wasn't into it either. I didn't like it. I didn't like how they was. Like I said, it's too over.
We are the only ones that do it though. I mean, the only ones that degrade ourselves. You're the only ones that call ourselves the N-word.
Yeah.
You know, I don't believe in that. You're taking the power from the word. No, you
ain't taking the power from the word. No.
You know, we are the only group of people that seem to do stuff to ourselves.
Because we're the only ones who are allowed to do it.
But look who they choose. They choose people that are controllable, people that are broke, don't have anything, got issues, got drug issues, got mental issues. They know that they can control them with the money. I mean, come on. Sexy Red has a lipstick called gonorrhea. Who is putting gonorrhea on their lips? Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Sexy now. Sexy and all in to give a little background. Sexy Red was on a podcast recently and revealed that she had been a victim of rape years ago. I can look at her and tell she's dealing with some issues. Okay. But we cannot have dysfunctional people who have access to the minds of the masses. That's a recipe for disaster. You can't have dysfunctional people like that. Ignorant, dysfunctional people. Okay. Once again, they're not going to let white women do that because they know that will put white women in a negative category, and that will influence that it lowers their value, and it influences how people treat them. You only protect what you respect. They'll let black women do that all day long because they have no respect for us.
Yeah,
and black men until they get out of line. So like when the baby got out of line and he at a concert went on a rant for about 2 minutes about the LGBT community, things like this. Oh, there was a swift retaliation. He got disinvited from Coachella. He got disinvited from other music festivals. He got invited putting out music dehumanizing black people. That was fine. The minute he gets off the program, all of a sudden, we're gonna cut off your access.
Hey, what are your thoughts on Jay-Z? Because obviously he's no longer a so-called gangster. I mean, his music in the past, you could say was degrading to women also, but now he's a billionaire and a businessman and an entrepreneur and all that. So what are your thoughts on the transition, right? Because you see guys like Nelly now, and every time you see Nelly, he has on a suit now and a tie, and he's dressed. But back in the day when he was making his millions, he's one of the people responsible for the sagging pants, as far as I'm concerned, right? Nelly was like the one that really made that popular, the sagging pants and stuff like that. So, but now he's a businessman also, right? He's not sagging his pants anymore.
Well, I think they were sagging before Nelly came out. I remember when Nelly came out. They were sagging before then.
They were sagging before, but Nelly's one of the most popular rappers that was sagging though as well. You know.
Yeah, I remember.
Like that.
Yeah, I remember when they were marketing overalls with the prison numbers on them
Yeah,
in the early
that
90s
style is,
when I was in
still kicking around, bro. I was in
when I was in college.
okay, they still try to push that on people, man. I was in H&M a couple weeks ago, and I'm looking at a jacket, and I looked at it, and I go, that looks like a prison jacket. So they're still pushing it, man. That I saw it, but that looks like a prison jacket. Only thing missing was the numbers right there, man.
Right. So with Jay-Z, you what hip hop did was it allowed for an avenue into the business world, into marketing, licensing, business development for a lot of African American men who probably would not have had that access because they didn't go to college, didn't major in business, didn't come from that. Now, maybe if you were second generation, like if your dad owned businesses, if your dad was a mogul, if your dad was in entertainment, like Jermaine Dupri, if I remember correctly, I think his father was in entertainment.
Yeah,
okay.
I think he worked for Virgin Records.
Yeah. Okay, so he's like Jermaine Dupri is like second generation. Okay, so yeah, so the doors are already open for you, but with Jay-Z and others, they had to build a house and put the doors in. They didn't have anything. Okay, a lot of them. So yeah, I still have some of Jay-Z stuff in the crates. He has so this is a little complicated. So he has evolved into billionaire status, things like this. Now to me, he's an opportunist. Let me give you an example. So somehow Jay-Z becomes heir apparent to Colin Kaepernick's NFL protests when Jay-Z gets co-opted by Roger Goodell in the NFL to produce halftime shows for the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. When just a year before or 2 years before, Jay-Z put the word out to top entertainers, don't perform at the Super Bowl in support of Colin Kaepernick. And I told people when he had that meeting with Roger Goodell and they had that press conference, he was being co-opted. I said they were going to. The video is on YouTube. I said it 2 years before Rihanna performed at the Super Bowl. I said that what they're going to do, they're going to bring Jay-Z in. Jay-Z is then going to bring in the top hip hop, top acts, top entertainment acts, who he told 2 years ago not to perform at the Super Bowl. Who performed early? I think it was early this year. Rihanna. Mm-hmm. I told people what was going to happen. Okay, so he's an opportunist for that. All right, you know, I wish him success in doing good business, but it's easy now. In all disclosure, I haven't watched the NFL game since Colin Kaepernick left the league. Right. Because I supported Colin Kaepernick's stance. He was correct. He didn't do that to make more money. He did that fighting against, he's not anti-police. He was fighting against systemic racism and police brutality. He wasn't against the American flag, okay? He was against systemic racism and police brutality. So I have not, and he was banned from the league. Just because he got a settlement does not correct the conditions that he was protesting against. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm not watching another NFL game until he is either brought back into the league or retires or something. So no, the hell, I don't watch the Lions. Right. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, brother. Go ahead. You from Detroit, man?
Yeah, I live in Detroit. I don't watch the Lions. And
the Lions have never been good. So
the other thing is the average career in the NFL is about 3.6 seasons. Their contract is not guaranteed. Many of them have lifelong injuries after their playing days are over. By the age of 25, half of them, their careers are over with. Okay, so we also have to look at these brothers need better health care. Mm-hmm. The league is 78%. This league is about 70% black. The league is about 70% black. Maybe only one or two head coaches. The one that's biracial, I don't count him because he don't even identify as black. Okay, you got to be black 100% of the time for us to count. I'm sorry. You can't not claim being black. Okay, except when it's time to get a job. So that don't count. All right, but we have to look at this more strategically and understand. Wait a second, the league is 70% black. These guys are dealing with lifelong injuries.
Mhm.
Many of them are going to deal with chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE. They're going to deal with brain damage, etc. Okay, so more has to be done to support the players after they leave the field also.
Right.
Yes, I agree.
Let me read a couple of comments. Gina, I guess this was going out to you, Kevin. We were talking about, and we're gonna have to agree to disagree, Kevin, on the black 6-year-old rapper, because I don't think comparing him to a mass shooter. I know he's not gonna grow up to be a mass shooter, but it's still horrible. It's still what he's doing. I don't know if he doesn't have parents, but he has adults around him. Obviously, you can see the adults, but of course,
I was just trying to project yeah, it is horrible. I said that. I was just trying to say I don't think that's the end of his life. And
No,
the kid might grow up and graduate college and be a successful businessman. That video and what he's doing at 6-year-old. I mean, I could be totally wrong. He might grow up and be a womanizer and a gangster rapper or whatever, and be a bad image.
That's what it looked like to me.
so
He's 6 years old. I mean, you know.
First of all, he's 6. He's supposed to be laying in bed.
Hey, I don't even remember. You can ask me right now. What was I doing when I was 6 years old? I couldn't even tell you right now.
Doing that.
I'm 58. I have no idea what I was doing at 6 years old. So,
but I'm saying
doing that.
you got to
this
separate.
This kid might not remember what he was doing at 6. You know.
I'm saying we got to separate the two. That is very. I mean, that is horrible. We got to separate. I don't think we can conflate the two. I don't think we can say compare the mass shooter with the because I feel we as black people, we got enough to deal with. We don't need this on top of all of that, all the other stuff.
I understand all of that. Kids are having sex at 12 now and 11. You know,
Or they're being touched or molested.
Yeah, a lot of them are. Some of them are just voluntarily having sex at 12 right now.
And the kids in the club doing the concert.
Voluntarily? Who voluntarily at 12 years old have sex unless somebody touched them or interrupted their innocence?
You don't think kids are having sex at 12?
No, I'm not saying they're not having sex. It's because they were activated. Okay, some of these children don't need to be even thinking. I wasn't thinking about no sex at no 12 years old.
Neither was I.
I wasn't thinking about being activated. My mother made sure she had the right people around me. That's why we got to be careful on who we have around our children. You understand? Again, that young man's supposed to be in his house sleeping, getting ready for school the next day or getting ready for an outing the next day. Who's raising him? Who's raising these children? That's what I want to know.
Kathleen, watching us on YouTube. Hey, Kathleen Melrose. She made a good point. Kathleen said other black kids look up to these disrespectful energy. Yeah. So you got other 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old black kids looking at this kid. You know what I mean? So it's just a domino effect. You know, if he's doing it, well, I can do it. You know, it's just, you know what I mean? Both.
And it goes back. Sorry to cut you off, but it also goes back to the parents. It goes back to the parents.
Yeah.
Who is raising them. My mother didn't let us watch no craziness on TV. And it's something that you said, Mr. Michael. You was around Mr. Leonard Jeffries. I used to go and listen to them with my mother at the Black Theater.
Okay.
We used to have
in Harlem,
Brooklyn. And we used to go and listen to them. And this is what children need to be. They need to be about history, learning things, going to museums. He don't need to be out there with his money and all of that. And not one time did he say, "Oh, my business" or anything like that. He talking about women on his little ding-a-ling. That's too much.
Well, it's way too much, and if somebody older does that, that'll be child molestation as well. Is way too much. There's so many levels to this, so many levels of dysfunction, and you know. So once again, I have to answer the question. You know, where are his parents to allow something like this? And you know, if you let me put it like this. My daughter is 6 years old.
Okay.
If a little boy came up to my daughter talking some mess like that, I hope she knocked the hell out of him.
Like, get away from me. You're nasty.
Yeah, because see, that's the precursor to then you putting your hands on somebody and you wanted to think you can think you can dehumanize people and mistreat them. So you 6 years old, you're gonna go talk to a 6-year-old girl like that? What happens when her parents teach her to defend herself and they knock you the hell out?
Right.
Hopefully it doesn't happen when you're shooting your music video.
Right.
Kathleen Melrose also says, another girl, she said, it ain't about him, it's about what he represents.
Yeah, and that's what he was talking about with visual. What we see, what we are taking in from these TV, from the YouTube and these videos, we taking that in, and this is why we have to be careful on what we let our children see. We have control of all of this. We have the parent, the parent guidance that you can shut it down. My nephew called me and said, "Can you please take off the parent control?" No, you're 12. I'm not taking off no parent control. You know, so you have to be like that.
It's part of it is parent control. The other part is now this is probably, that video is probably independently produced. Okay, probably doesn't have Atlantic Records behind it, a major record label behind it, but we have seen a different stance that white record labels take when white people complain about the music. There was a song a few years ago, OUENO, I think it was, Rick Ross was on. There's an article from Billboard.com that talks about this. I deal with this in my history classes that I teach. And he had a song, he had some lyrics on the song that talked about putting Molly, or a date rape drug, into a woman's drink and taking advantage of her. Okay, what happened was feminist organizations, women organizations protested against this. One of them was Ultraviolet. Rick Ross at the time had a endorsement deal with Reebok, the gym shoe manufacturer. Okay, these women protested in front of the flagship Reebok store in, I think it was New York City. So what happened was Reebok didn't tell these, especially white women. There were some black women with them, but largely white women. Reebok didn't tell the white women, "Oh, he's not talking about you. He's talking about the other H's." Reebok didn't say, "If you don't like the music, don't buy it," or change the radio station. Reebok put out a statement, said that those lyrics don't represent Reebok, and they canceled his endorsement deal with Reebok. Now look at this. Reebok was paying Rick Ross money to make them exponentially more money. But because the white women complained, they said it ain't worth it. We respect them more than we respect him. Mm-hmm. But when African Americans complain, it's like, it's like, if you don't like it, change the channel, change the radio station, don't listen to it, things like this. When other people complain, it's not that same response. Last example. I got others, but last example. There was a song called Only by Nicki Minaj. In the music video, there was a symbol that resembled a Nazi swastika. And there were uniforms people were wearing in it with the symbol on it, and it resembled a Nazi swastika. The Jewish community, some people in the Jewish community, spoke out against this. Nicki Minaj put out a social media post, if I remember correctly, it was on Twitter, apologizing for the imagery, saying she didn't mean to hurt anybody. She didn't apologize to the African American community for using the N-word in the same song.
Yeah, you see that? That's
right.
deep.
But
that makes sense. But rappers have been dropping the N-word since the 90s, man.
Go ahead.
We know it's wrong, right? But
I mean, all of this,
Rick Ross is no worse than Biggie, and I mean Biggie's actually worse than Rick Ross if you listen to Biggie's lyrics. I was just listening to Biggie today. I was just driving for 5 hours from North Carolina to New York. You know, when I got tired of listening to the Delphonics, I put on some Biggie and Tupac. You know, got a wide range of music on my playlist, right? So,
right,
you know, and when the Temptations went off, next song came on was Victory, which is a Puff Daddy collaboration, and Biggie's on there, you know, and the lyrics, the beat is dope, but the lyrics are tough, you know.
But because the two, in my opinion,
but Biggie didn't have any endorsements either, right? So he wasn't going to lose.
And I don't think the white women came out and protested either. But I'm telling you, when other people speak up, other people are respected more because of things that they don't tolerate. See, they're respected more because things that they don't tolerate. So, there was a TED talk done by. I wrote an article about this. There was a TED talk done by this guy. He's a white minister named White Mike.
I saw that.
Yeah, and White Mike said, he was talking about negative corporate control hip hop, and he said, "Do you realize that you can't make a song about killing a dog, but you can make a song about killing black people?"
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
That's right.
If you make a song about killing a dog, the people from PETA, the animal rights groups are coming after you. You make a song about killing black people, mainly nobody's gonna come after you.
It's like it doesn't matter, like we don't matter.
The bottom line is, then what you're saying is we're responsible for our pain. Is that what you?
We have to take control of that and hold those responsible who finance this music, who sign the contracts. The suits control the music industry. The suits are the executives.
You start watching football, and a handful of other people start watching the NFL. So you could find probably 1,000 brothers that start watching the NFL, but millions of others are like, I know Kaepernick on my side, but we're still watching the NFL. I know some of the most down brothers in the world that still went and watched the NFL. They can walk around with a fist like this and have an X on their hat, and they still tuned in on Sundays to watch the NFL.
And the reason why is because they rather be entertained than empowered.
Because we're not prepared to sacrifice.
Because that deals with your foundation and your understanding of history, of people's history and culture, teaches you that what you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. That's based upon what you've read, heard, and seen. So a lot of us, this is why I'm like, we should have launched economic boycotts against the advertisers of NFL games. There's so much economic pressure. We need to engage in economic guerrilla warfare. It's the same thing when it came to trying to get the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed. There was in 2021, either 2020, 2021, 2021, when they're trying to get the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed. There was a group of 150 corporations that signed onto a letter supporting the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Okay. We need to put economic pressure on them. See, the problem is that a lot of these mainstream civil rights organizations get donations from these same corporations, so they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. We got to have another. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do, go to their websites and look at their annual report, because based upon 501c3 status, which comes from the U.S. tax code, you have to make publicly available an annual report. The annual report shows where your funding is coming from, who donates to you. So all of them have that on their website. I've looked at it years before, and you see the corporations that donate to them. So then you see why they don't call for economic boycotts against the certain corporations. They're not going to bite the hand that feeds
them. They're giving them money.
Are they also afraid of the ultimate sacrifice? Like the sacrifice that Dr. King took? Because but nobody wants to take that bullet. Dr. King didn't want to take it either, but that's what he got. He called for a boycott also, and that boycott he called for was one of the things to his demise, right?
Well, Dr. King called for numerous boycotts. That was the one in Memphis, Tennessee. That was the last boycott. More so, he was calling beyond a boycott. He was calling, number one, his opposition to the Vietnam War, because when he delivered his speech Beyond Vietnam, April 4th, 1967, which was his first public speech focused on his opposition to the Vietnam War, he became the most hated man in America overnight. Okay, he got disinvited from the White House under President Lyndon Johnson. He became the most hated man in America. 1, 2, he was calling for a radical redistribution of wealth and resources in this country also. Okay, so is those two main things. It wasn't just the boycotts, because they had boycotts in Birmingham, Alabama, 1963. There were numerous boycotts, but it's going to take a coalition of organizations. We can't put the onus on just one organization. It's going to be a coalition of organizations, and it's not going to come from any of the traditional civil rights organizations. No, this is not an attack on them, but they haven't had an economic boycott of anything in years. Okay, a travel advisory saying be careful going to South Carolina is not an economic boycott. Okay,
Or
so
Florida too, right?
or Florida, yeah, that's not an economic boycott. So now I just posted the article here, NBCnews.com, because I literally have thousands of articles in my archives. Elections. This is the one I was talking about. More than 150 companies back update to Voting Rights Act. Major businesses like PepsiCo, Macy's, IKEA, and Nestle USA signed on to a letter supporting the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. So this is from July 14th, 2021. So the bill passed the House of Representatives by a vote of, that was 219 to 211, I think it was. No Republicans voted for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. It died in the Senate, okay? And no Republicans in the Senate voted for it. So one of the things we have to understand is what I call economic guerrilla warfare. If you go to fec.gov, Federal Elections Commission, the Federal Elections Commission lists for federal elections, U.S. Senate, House of Representatives, the president. It lists the names and the corporations that donated to your campaign. So there should have been economic pressure on corporations that help to finance certain Republicans' campaigns, especially in the Senate, to put economic pressure on them to force them to vote for this bill. Now, there were 16 sitting Republicans who in 2005, 2006 voted to reauthorize the 1965 Voting Rights Act. None of them in 2021 voted for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, even though they talked about how great John Lewis was, how they missed John Lewis, all this stuff. No Republicans voted for that.
Nobody supported it.
No Republicans. All the Democrats voted for the bill. Even Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema voted for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. They just didn't vote to change the filibuster rule.
Right.
But no Republicans in the House or the Senate, including the Black Republicans, including Byron Donalds, including Senator Tim Scott, none of them voted for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
Well, Tim Scott is
That's
a different
sad. That's
story.
sad, man. That's real
He
sad.
said there's no racism in America, so we already know what he's doing.
Well, until he gets pulled over by police. He said racism. He said he's confused on what racism is. He thinks it's a feeling as opposed to understanding racism as a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon wealth coming out of the ideology, distributed based upon race coming out of the ideology of European white supremacy. But when he gets pulled over by white police officers, he has a different story because he knows that is dealing with race. Then oftentimes he's talked about this on the U.S. Senate floor.
Let me jump in here.
Go ahead.
These are some things I think Black people need to fix. And we joke on this show all the time. 100 years from now, there'll be 3 other Black people doing the same show, saying the same, going over the same thing. You know what I mean? How do we end this? How do we get better, treated better in society? But here, this is just my thoughts. One, I think Black people self-disrespect themselves so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think we seem to, we got the thing where we're keeping it real. You know what I mean? Black women think they can twerk anywhere. They can just bust out and start twerking wherever. And I think, and I know some people don't agree with me, but I think I represent Black people. When I go out in public, I represent Black people. Yeah, I represent my family, but the first thing people see is that I'm Black.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I represent Black people. And I think we need to think more of that. We need to think more like that when you're out in public, you don't just represent yourself. I know some people say it shouldn't be, I should represent me, but it's just my thought. We have no power. Secondly, we have no power. Michael, we have no, and when I say power, when there's a Jewish holiday, the roads are empty, right? It's like a national holiday. When the Jews have a holiday,
like Yom Kippur,
you can
Yom Kippur.
drive you can drive. I live, I mean, you can drive from, something's going on today. Is a hot. So that shows you how many businesses they have. That's power. When you have that kind of power, you can affect traffic. Black people don't have that, right? We don't have power where we can affect anyone economically. That's why nobody cares when we die in the streets. Nobody cares. Nobody listens to us. The FBI said when things happen in the Black community, if we kill one of them, whatever we do, they come out, they protest for a week or whatever, and then they go about the business. So they just wait 2 weeks. I think I read somewhere that the FBI said they'll wait a couple of weeks, they'll go away. We don't worry about them. So we have no power. And I've said on this show before, most of the money, the Black money, comes from entertainment and sports, right? That's where all the Black money is generated. What are we doing with our money? Why aren't we opening businesses to hire more Black people? Why don't we have huge, and Tiffany, my dream is to have a 10 or 20-story building. I don't know if they already have it, but when I'm in New York City a lot and I travel a lot. So I see all these huge buildings and thousands of people going in and out, you know what I mean? And who owns those? And, you see the Chinese, you go to Chinatown, you see Chinese banks, you see banks, the Bank of India. What are Black people doing with our money? And this is why nobody cares what we do or how we feel, you know what I mean? Because we have no power. We can't affect anyone economically. And how would that change? Like I always ask, like all these basketball players, when they're in the locker room, you sitting in the locker room, you got 15 men making over 100 million a year. And I know that's a little exaggeration. Aren't they talking about how can we combine our money and start making cars, start making phones, cell phones, start doing something that would generate real economic that would help Black people. So until we get that kind of power, and I don't know if we can get on code, and this is no slight against any other group, because white people do it all day long, Chinese people do it all day long, the Indians do it all day long, but for some reason we can't seem to get ourselves together to do something to help the entire the entire society. So I don't know what your thoughts are. What do we need to do as Black people? And I know it's been asked over and over and over again. There don't seem to be an answer, but we just can't keep saying the same thing. You know what I mean? The definition of crazy, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. But something's got to be done. I mean, we have the money. I feel like we have the money. We have the money.
So there's when I teach, and when my teachers like Professor James Small, Dr. Leonard Jeffries teach, there are three main components to this: African history and culture, what gives us our foundation, gives us our values, our interests, and our principles, gives us a cultural paradigm that we see reality through. It gives us our self-identity, our self-respect. And then you have economic empowerment, and you have political empowerment. Okay. Your economic empowerment, your history and culture influences how you engage in economics. So, for instance, if we look at this book that I use when I teach, Collective Courage, A History of African American Cooperative Economic Thought and Practice by Dr. Jessica Gordon Emhard. The secret to our economic success historically was not necessarily white capitalism. It was the cooperative system, the co-ops, which we were using going back to slavery, whether it was the Free African Society in 1787, whether it was things like the Colored Farmers Union about in the 1880s, which grew to about 1.2 million members, whether it was the Colored Merchants Association created in 1928, coming out of the Negro Business League, created in the early 1900s, right around 1901, 1900 by Booker T. Washington. And the Colored Merchants Association, when you studied it, it was an association of African-American grocery store owners. And it grew to something like about 400 members, because grocery stores were one of the main types of businesses that we had. Grocery stores, insurance companies, funeral homes, okay, going back to the early 1900s. And what they did was they educated their members on marketing strategies, accounting strategies. They bought in bulk so they can get greater economies of scale. And what they were focused on doing was competing better against the chain stores like the A&Ps and the Woolworths and the Kresge's, okay? When you look at the Colored Farmers Union, they were sharing farming equipment. They were exchanging ideas and information on how to better on agricultural methods. They had to disband after 5 or 6 years because of threats from white supremacists. Because when we go study a lot of these cooperatives, they had to operate in secrecy, or they had to disband because they were being attacked, they were being killed, because you had white people who wanted to segregate us because they hated us, but then when we became prosperous, they hated that too. Okay, so when we go now cooperatives are seeing a resurgence now, and we saw this during 2020 when COVID-19 hit, and even when we studied the Black Panther Party for self-defense, they implemented cooperatives to raise money to get the food for their the breakfast program and their food programs to give away food, their sickle cell anemia screening programs, their medical services, things like this. This is all dealing with cooperatives. So we have to go back into our history to understand how we did this previously. Okay, that's our strength. What happened was a lot of us went to white business schools, and in white business schools, you're educated in white capitalism, not cooperatives. So then we try to bring white business principles back to the African American community, not understanding this history. And that may work for your family, but it doesn't benefit the community the way the cooperative did. The cooperatives were principles that we brought with us from Africa, where the members are also owners of the entity. So one of the most popular examples of a cooperative is a credit union. And a credit union is different than a bank because those that have accounts, those that deposit money, they're also they're called members, and they're also part owners of the entity. So when we start dealing with that, and then we have to understand politics. Politics is more than just voting. Politics is the legal distribution of wealth, of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Politics impacts every aspect of your life. So you have a lot of these economic empowerment gurus out here telling everybody to start a business. I taught entrepreneurship for 7 years. My degree's in business administration. 80% of Black-owned businesses go out of business in 18 months. Okay. We could do much better if we form cooperatives, as opposed to just trying to just go do LLCs and think we're just going to jump out here and become a millionaire in a year. But we have to understand politics much better and understand how to push agendas, how to control politics at the local level. Also read the U.S. Constitution, because at the federal level, it's so important. And we look at the fights that's taking place now between MAGA Republicans, between Democrats. You look at the fight that's taking place in the House of Representatives. You look at the fight for president, things like this. A lot of our people don't understand this and policies that come from that. And they say, we want this, we want that, we want this, but don't understand how to bring those policies actually into existence, how to get those bills passed. Okay. So we have to have a synthesis of all three of those. It's not just history and culture. It's not just playing a djembe drum and speaking metal netter. It's also understanding economic empowerment and political empowerment and having a synthesis of all three of those.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Dr. Claude Anderson talked about that. You know,
well, Dr. Claude Anderson is one of my teachers. I know Dr. Claude Anderson, and when he and I talk, we argue all the time. I say we argue like an old married couple. But at the end of the day, he's usually forced to agree with me because I do my research and I know what I'm talking about. You know, so one of the things you have a lot of people say, you know, we want a black agenda. We want a black agenda. As I explain to people, a black agenda is not what politicians give you. That's what you give politicians. Anybody waiting on politicians to give them agenda doesn't deserve one. A black agenda is what you create, understanding history, economics, law, and politics. That's what you present to politicians. And then you have people say, we only want policies that deal with black people. Well, race-based policies at the federal level are illegal. That's based upon Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, Section 601, non-discrimination in federally assisted programs. This is why you have to understand law. You got to understand history, economics, law, and politics. So when you understand that, and I teach a whole concept called political self-defense, okay? Political self-defense, understanding how laws and policies impact the economic conditions of African Americans. And we need to understand, so people say, well, that's the white man's law. They use the law to trap us, okay? I always say this, everything they do to us, they use the law to do it. And then when they get caught breaking the law, they go hire an attorney at law to defend them in the court of law. Well, the common denominator is law. So we need to understand the law better than they understand it so we can defend ourselves and disarm them of that weapon and use it against them.
Oh,
All right.
blackout. Okay.
Yeah. So are we? So do you see any light at the end of the tunnel?
I think there's light at the end of the tunnel. There's light if we create the light. There's light if we create the light. We have to understand how to bring into existence what it is that we say that we want. Okay. So if we want a voting rights bill in place, well, it takes 218 votes to get any bill passed in the House of Representatives. When you look at the difference between a Mike Johnson, Republican from Louisiana, who just became the Speaker of the House, or Kevin McCarthy, Republican from California, became the Speaker of the House, or Representative Hakeem Jeffries, who's a nephew of one of my teachers, Dr. Leonard Jeffries. Okay, the difference between them being Speaker of the House was about 7,000 votes in a handful of House districts, because the Republicans only have about a 4-vote majority. Okay, you can't get anything passed in this chaos caucus, right? But a lot of our people don't understand the importance of those midterm elections, those House races. Mm-hmm. And you got 3 branches of the federal government: legislative, judicial, and executive. And based upon Article 1, Section 9, Clause 7 of the U.S. Constitution, power of the purse, the ability to tax and spend belongs to Congress, not the president. Okay, so you need control of the House and the Senate to be able to pass reasonable legislation to be able to put on the president's desk to sign in the law. If you got crazy people in the House of Representatives, you can't get anything passed.
Right.
You can't get any. They haven't passed any significant bills with Republicans in charge of the House of Representatives. And November 17th, the continued resolution that Kevin McCarthy got passed with the help the Democrats that kept the government open, that expires November 17th. So we can be right back in the same situation. As I explained to people, there were 3 government shutdowns during the first 2 years of the Donald Trump administration. And Republicans controlled the House, the Senate, and the White House, because this is the game that can't shoot straight. They cannot govern. It's easy to just say no to everything, but they can't govern. And that last government shutdown that happened December of 2018 going into January of 2019, lasted about 35 days. That was devastating to African Americans. So we have to understand how to perceive these threats so we can stop this. This is not that difficult when you understand the rules of the game, but we're playing a real life game of political football. And most of us don't know the difference between a first down and a touchdown and wonder why we're not winning the game.
Well, we're going to have to wrap it up. It was truly an absolute pleasure having you on, Mr. Norris.
Hey, thanks.
Truly a pleasure. Tiffany, thank you so much.
And I want to tell people, visit my website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com.
Yes,
right on the homepage, it has information for my online history classes I teach on Saturdays and Sundays. Register for those online classes. We do the sessions live, but also we have content that's archived. So visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, THE.
Do you think teaching African Americans about African history would kind of break that gap between the divide? Because there seems to be a divide, and you hit on it perfectly when I came to America. I had the same feeling and I tell all these guys, I thought Black Americans are lazy, they don't want to work, because that's what I saw. And literally, I had my perception of America was based off of Cornbread Earl and me.
Right, good times. Right.
You know,
Oh, man.
I
These
saw
like the Jeffersons.
Yep.
the Charles Bronson movies,
Oh, Death Wish.
Death Wish.
Yeah.
One of my friends told me when you go to America, they'll go on the train because the black people will shoot you.
Right. See, those images of criminality get projected around the world, so that's how people think of us.
Right. You know. And,
Yeah.
So I fully, but I like I say to these guys, once you come to this country and once you start intermingling with society and you start working, when I found out that you cannot get a job because you have natural hair, a black woman, if you go to a job,
In some areas, yep.
Yeah. I mean, because I grew up seeing women with natural hair reading the news, being politicians. You know what I mean? So I didn't, but that might not seem a lot.
Now you're from Barbados?
Yes.
Now you're in a country where the majority of the population is black. Am I correct?
88% black.
88%, and then you all are in the government. You're in the position of the government, things like this. When you come from a country like that, where you see black excellence all around you, and you see black people run the country, it has a different impact on your psyche than when you're in a country and you're the minority of the population, 13.5% of the population. Okay. It's even though you all deal with racism and you still you all just broke away from the Queen, from Great Britain, from a republic, right? Am I correct? Barbados? Yeah. Okay. So you still have like remnants of colonialism, things like that, but it's much different. You're much more empowered, okay, than in a situation like we are here.
Even though we are 98% of the population, but we have 2% of the wealth. The 2% white people have 98% of the wealth, and the 98% black people have about 2% of the wealth.
Yeah. Because that's a remnant of colonialism.
Yes.
The British colonialism.
Like,
yes.
They handed down the wealth from their generation to generation. They didn't let us take any part of it. But I also, like I said, when I feel discriminated in this country, I know I have a country that I can go back to where people look like me.
Right.
For me, I don't get followed around when I go shopping. The police, I don't get pulled over. You know what I mean? I can go anywhere and I feel comfortable. But I'm like, in Black Americans, you were born in America, and the people make you feel like they don't want you in the country you were born in. You know, so that, you know, I can't imagine how that feels.
Right. That's why we have to support African American owned businesses.
Absolutely.
Use the cooperatives, take control of our communities, etc. Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, when Africans come to America and after, some of them have been here for years and they still say disparaging stuff about African Americans. I say, listen, Black Americans took the hit for us to be here. Because if Black Americans didn't take the hit, we would have been getting, you know, the hoses, the fire hoses, the dogs, you know what I mean, going through all. So
I think I said that earlier in the show, Carl. I think I said that earlier in the show.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, you did say that, and you're absolutely correct. You know, they come here, everything looks fine, so they think it's been like this. You know, they think it's been like this the entire time, and we just waltz in, and I know some Black people from the Caribbean who still look down on African Americans, and I try to talk to them, but you know.
But it's just not the Caribbean, and it's not the Caribbean and the African, the Amigos. They kind of hate us too, man. So everybody's piling on, man.
You talking about in Mexico?
The Mexicans? You're talking
yeah. Well, a lot of them don't like Americans. That goes back to the Mexican-American War, 1846, 1848. That goes back to the U.S. setting up a settlement in Texas, where you had the Alamo, and leading to the Texas Revolution, 1836, where Texas fights for the independence against Mexico. So that you're going back decades. There, that goes back to when you had about 1.2 million Mexican Americans who were deported from the U.S. back to Mexico during the Great Depression, because this started with Herbert Hoover about 1929, 1930. President Herbert Hoover, who had a campaign called real jobs for real Americans, something like that. And they were saying that Mexican Americans were taking jobs away from white people in this country. And about 60% of the people they deported were born here legally. Okay, so you dealing with something going back decades, a deep-seated hatred. Right. But this was all over land. The U.S. got the territory that makes up California, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, Nevada from Mexico as a result of the Mexican-American War that ended in 1848. That's where a lot of land came from. They got that for $15 million from Mexico, but the Mexican-American War was triggered over a dispute over territory. And where the boundary between Mexico and the U.S. was going to be, because the U.S. wanted to expand its boundaries.
So we don't have the time. We don't have the time tonight to get into this, but we'd love to have you back on the show, brother. Because
absolutely,
I would love to hear your take on the political situation that we're in right now with the Democrats and the Republicans. And I know that's a whole nother show. And and voting. We need to talk about voting.
Oh, absolutely. And talk about Israel and the Hamas war.
We'd love to get into that too, man.
Absolutely.
So I definitely want to get into that, man. So
okay,
we'd love to have you back on soon, brother. If you
do that.
I saw a video when you were on Roland, and you said that Trump did exactly what he said he was going to do.
Oh yeah, he told us ahead of time what he was going to do.
Right.
People thought he was playing. No, basically everything he did, he told you he was going to do it. And he the 2016 he won Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania by 78,000 votes. He won Michigan by 10,704 votes because people don't understand the Electoral College and don't understand it's not the national popular vote that matters, it's the popular vote per state. That's how you win the electoral college votes associated with the state, by winning the popular vote in the state, because they haven't read the U.S. Constitution. You read the U.S. Constitution, it explains all this, because the U.S. Constitution created the electoral college.
Yeah, and that was created for what reason? I think I know the reason, but I'll have
one of the reasons was to keep factions from breaking out. So a lot of the founding fathers did not think that the average voter, in this space is basically all white men at that time, the average voter was qualified enough to vote for president. 1, 2, they were afraid of factions breaking out where people could coalesce votes and get the wrong person into office. So when you deal with it very succinctly, the electoral college votes that are associated with the states is based upon population. Okay, you take the number of seats in the House of Representatives a state has, you add to that the number of seats in the U.S. Senate. Every state has 2 based upon the U.S. Constitution. That tells you how many electoral college votes a state has. You win the electoral college votes in the state by winning the popular vote in the state. Okay, so they were trying to keep in mind, they had broken away from King George III. With the 13 colonies, they broke away. They're setting up this U.S. Constitution, so they're trying to put these safeguards in place. All right. So what we have to do is read the Constitution, because that is like the rule book. When you understand the Constitution, then you understand all this other stuff. You understand why. Oh, okay. The Congress and the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives, why they write laws, and why the president submits a budget to Congress to approve the budget, and it goes through 12 subcommittees, 12 appropriation subcommittees to approve the budget that the president submits. So it's not just the president, it's also the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate that has power as well. But the judicial branch of the federal government interprets law written by the legislative branch. So the president nominates federal judges who are confirmed by the U.S. Senate, and nominates Supreme Court justices who are confirmed by the Senate. So it's all those entities coming together. Okay, this is how Trump got 3 Supreme Court justices that flipped a 5-4 liberal Supreme Court to a 6-3 conservative Supreme Court, and a lot of people didn't see it coming. I warned people about this because that's what he said he was going to do.
He's a man of his word. I'll tell you that. I'll tell anybody.
over 30,000 false and misleading statements or lies, but he says the quiet part out loud.
Yes.
He has totalitarian tendencies. He's an authoritarian, but he says the quiet part out loud. You need to listen when he tells you. And if he gets back in office, he's telling you it's going to be worse the second time around.
Well, he's leading the polls. He's leading the polls right now, guys.
Well, amongst Republicans, it fluctuates with national between Biden and Trump. It fluctuates. Last poll I saw, Biden was ahead 2 points. This is an off year right here. So it's what matters more is in 2024. What we have to do as African Americans is educate ourselves and our people politically to understand how politics impacts every aspect of our lives. And while voting is extremely important, is one part of politics. And stop telling Black people to exercise your right to vote. If you want to exercise, you go to the gym and work out. You don't vote for exercise, you vote for power. You vote for Black power. So we have to understand the power associated with the vote, which is why Republicans work so hard to suppress our vote. They fear Black political power.
Yes.
Kathleen Melrose said we need to create our own city. I know that sounds
create our own city.
I guess it sounds good. I mean, like create our own space to live in. I think is what Kathleen is saying.
Well, you have some people, trying to do things with tiny homes, things like this. I would say take over the city that you're in. If you got a majority Black population, focus on taking over where you are.
Yeah.
Okay. Kathleen also said Biden cheated his way in office. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Kathleen.
Yeah, I don't know. Kathleen's on the wrong page.
Unless he's an old racist from back in the days.
She has to do more research on that.
Yeah.
Look at the 61 lawsuits that Trump filed. It was 62 lawsuits, and he lost all except one, which is in Philadelphia, which dealt with how close poll watchers could be to people counting the vote. All those lawsuits he lost, or they were thrown out, dismissed because they didn't provide the evidence to substantiate what they were saying. Go watch my video that deals with the Georgia indictment of Donald Trump and 18 co-conspirators, because I take you through the actual indictment, because I read the actual indictment.
That's on YouTube, bro?
Yeah, that's on YouTube, yeah.
Okay.
My YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP.
I'm going to watch that.
Yeah, because he's a political person. He loves his political
So
stuff.
Kathleen doubled down on the comment about Biden. Kathleen said it's a fact. Biden cheated his way in office.
Provide your evidence, Kathleen.
Yeah, Kathleen.
Hit me up on YouTube. See, people say all type of nonsense. Provide your evidence. If they had evidence, they would have presented it in court. Donald Trump raised $250 million from losers and suckers. Kathleen may have donated to the cause also. When it came time to provide evidence in court, they did not provide evidence because it was a lie. So this is why you had Jenna Ellis. This is why you have Kenneth Chesebro. This is why you have the other crazy attorney who are taking plea deals because they know they lied. They lied because they were making money from stupid people who don't understand how any of this works. So it was easy to throw out conspiracy theories. Now, none of these people, and Kathleen can't tell you either, how is it that Republicans won seats in the House of Representatives on the same ballot that they're saying that Joe Biden stole votes from? They're saying votes were taken from from Trump and given to Biden on the same ballot that Republicans won their House seats on and actually won seats in the House of Representatives. None of these Republicans are calling for recounts in House races where Republicans won.
Mm-hmm. All right.
They're the ones who are lying.
Next time you're on the show, brother, I want you to educate this audience. Next time you're on the show, if you can, educate this audience on how dangerous a man Steve Bannon is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Steve Bannon used to run Breitbart. Breitbart was financed by Robert Mercer. Robert Mercer was one of the billionaires who was one of the early backers of Donald Trump. Kellyanne Conway ran Robert Mercer's family super PAC. Okay, Robert Mercer is a white supremacist who's against civil rights, and he was the one financing Breitbart. Breitbart is the home of the alt-right. Absolutely, Stephen K. Bannon is dangerous.
Yeah, he's a very dangerous man. He's got a lot. He's in the. He should be in jail right now, but he's not. But
Absolutely,
he's still working the back scenes. He's not. You don't see his face on TV every day because Trump's not president.
No, he has his podcast. See, he has his podcast.
He has a podcast. Him and all the other crazy guys.
And they influence ignorant people who never read the U.S. Constitution, don't understand the U.S. Constitution. They influence them through social media, through their podcast.
Mark Levine and all these guys, man.
Oh, yeah, right-wing conservative talk radio. Absolutely. Well, you got right-wing conservative talk radio, then you have right-wing conservative podcasts that are not on traditional terrestrial radio, but they're on their podcasts.
Yeah.
All right,
so yeah, I'd like to get into that next time, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
What he said, Carl?
Kathleen was black all the way up until 5 minutes ago. I don't know what happened. But,
she was what?
She was black until 5 minutes ago. She just went. She said the polls had Trump in the lead, and then she said she asking you if you were there to count. How do you know if you were there to count?
We can look at what happened in court. we can look at what happened in court. She's confusing the red mirage where more Republicans vote on election day and Democrats are more likely to do early voting. She's confusing that with stealing elections. You have to count. You count all the votes. Yeah, you count all the votes. What I found interesting is that Donald Trump wanted the recounts that Trump called for. Okay, it proved that the election wasn't stolen. He just lied, and he was raising money off of suckers. He raised $250 million in 2 months off of losers and suckers who believed the election was stolen. No, y'all just lost.
And I believe it.
I think Kathleen just messing with us because she was black up until the end. So.
Yep. All right, guys. Take care. Have a good night.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Hotel. Thank you. Peace.
Bye.
All right. Amazing.
All right.
That dude's amazing.
That dude. Tiffany.
I told you he's very smart.
Yeah, he's so smart. He's so smart. I'm scared to talk to him. That dude is so. Oh man.
Tiffany, thank you so much for getting us that guest. That was absolutely.
Yeah, we gotta get him back on. He has so much we could talk about. We still got, you said, elections, the war.
Yeah, we're gonna back on and talk about the election, talk about Steve Bannon, because I want everybody to learn about Steve Bannon, because he's behind a lot of this white supremacy crap that's going on, and he got a lot of power, and he's a dangerous man, and he's trying to change the government. He's trying to get rid of the government as we know it. That's why they put this new Speaker of the House in, who's a white ring nut job. And then you got Donald Trump that could easily be back in the White House. And this dude that's Speaker of the House is third from being president. And he was an election.
He's a part of that Christian Bible Belt, right?
Oh, he's the guy and he said that he had a black son. That was his whole thing. He had a black son.
Put in, I had a black son.
But there's no pictures of his. They went to his website and see all his family pictures.
Ain't no black son up there.
No black son on none of the family pictures. So we're like, you got a black son you've been raising. Where's he at? How come he's not none of the family pictures? So somebody said, what is he, the photographer?
Okay.
Yeah. He ain't none of the family pictures. Yeah. So there's a lot of BS going on, and we're gonna get into it, man. So definitely, Tiffany. Let's see if we can get him back in next month or something, if his schedule allows, to get him back on the show so we can dig deeper into this political upcoming election, which is going to be one of the most dangerous and craziest elections of our lifetime. I don't care if you don't like Biden or not. If Trump get back in office, we're fucked. Let's keep it real.
All right. So I want to thank everyone. Well, I'm not going to get to everyone, but Sharon Gooden, thank you so much for checking in. Jeff Short, thank you for returning. Nicole Coates, thank you so much. Gina Fiore, Gina had to leave. She said bye. Highly favored, thank you for checking in. Sharon Gooden, Kathleen Melrose. Kathleen, you were back all the way up to like 10 minutes ago. I'm not sure what happened. Did you go see a Taylor Swift concert or something? I don't know.
Shut up.
Kathleen said, "I trust no president." So
We don't have a good history anyway, right? We still ain't free in a lot of ways.
Did you learn anything tonight? Or what do you want to share? Are you gonna go and grab the little RT CD?
Who, me or him?
You,
me or Kev?
Tiffany. Are you gonna?
I didn't hear you. Well, listen. I love history. I love history. I love learning. And that's why I definitely thought of Mr. Michael, because he's always talking about history. And that's what we need to learn. We need to learn more about history. We need to know our power. We need to stand in our power and not be afraid of it, and we need to have more Black economics. We need more history about voting. We need to know these things. So this is why we have this platform, so we can be able to share it with others that are definitely interested in it. Also, I want to give a happy birthday to my brother in heaven. Well, with the ancestors. Tomorrow he would have been 61 years old. God blessed us with being able to reunite with his best friend. Blessings to him too. And a shout out to my family, sending out love, and definitely love your family. Check on your family, everybody. And we thank y'all all again for tuning in with us, sitting with us, listening with us, and taking this time out. Thank you to the host. Thank you again to Mr. Michael for coming out. And please like, share, and subscribe, and even look at our older videos, and let us know what you think.
All right. Also want to shout out Norma Staley. I forgot to mention, Norma said she's been sick for the last couple of weeks, but she's better now. She's back. That's Tanya's grandma. She's everybody's grandma. She's my grandma now. She's Kevin's grandma. She's Tiffany's grandma. Norma, we're glad you're back and you're feeling better. Thank you so much for joining us. We wish you well. Kevin, anything you learned today I want to share before you head home?
Yeah, I learned there's no Black people that come in Starbucks. Been in Starbucks for 90 minutes, ain't seen one Black person come in.
Where are you?
I'm right in Pennsylvania, Allentown, Pennsylvania. I'm about 20 miles from the New Jersey state line. I'm on my way back to New York, home.
Yeah.
I stopped off in Starbucks to do the show so I can have some light and some peace. And I was in a private corner where nobody really can hear my earbuds wasn't working, so I was like, all right, well,
they were watching you, right? They had the cameras on you.
Sure they were. That's all right. Maybe they learned something.
Yeah.
But no, it was very amazing show, amazing guests, and great questions answered by us, and he answered everything. It was an amazing show, so I hope everybody got a chance to watch it, and I'm glad I was a part of it. I didn't know if I was going to make it or not, because I'm traveling every Sunday now, because I'm one of the busiest comedians in the world, and I'm blessed to be that. So anyway,
you need to flew me in or something. Flew me in.
You need
fly you in. Let's fly you in.
You need a private jet.
Yeah, I do need a private jet, and I don't like to fly. I like to drive, so I flying, man. I'm driving my ass off.
Or you can do, who was it, Lil Bow Wow that took a picture next to a private jet, and then somebody started flying coach.
They sweat like crazy. They got a picture of him in coach. Private jet.
So Kathleen has gone off the rails now, I think. I don't know if Kathleen.
We miss Kathleen long. We love you, Miss Kathleen.
She said Biden gets back in office, there wouldn't be blacks in the USA.
What'd she say?
Biden gets back in office, there won't be blacks in the USA. I think she's playing because she was.
Yeah, she's joking because they need us. This is how the economics go round. Black dollars.
Kathleen, have you been hacked?
Yeah, I think she's been hacked, or the incense is burning too heavy in the house, or something going on.
Hey, Kev, how's that Bronco?
Oh, it's the most amazing vehicle I've ever owned. I've owned a lot of vehicles. It's big like a Hummer, but it rides like a car. I mean, I feel like I'm in a car even though I sit up real high. When I left North Carolina this morning, my hotel this morning, it got up to 81 degrees. So I took the top off and I'm riding with the top off for at least 3 hours of my ride, man. It was beautiful. I had the whole top off and just riding and blasting my music and stuff. It was a great ride, man. Then when I got to Maryland, I stopped at a smoothie shop. I looked at the temperature. I was like, oh shit, it's 60 degrees. Like the temperature dropped that quick.
Close your curtain.
81. So I went put my top back on, put the rest on the thing, and then when I got to Pennsylvania, it started raining, so the weather didn't drop. By the time I get to New York, it'd be snowing probably. Who the hell knows? The weather changed so drastically. When I get home, I'm pop a bunch of vitamins in my body because I'm going from 81 degrees and riding with my top off. And now I got this jacket on right here, and I was in Starbucks freezing my ass off. By the way, I was like, I need a thicker coat, Yeah. But
Yeah. Please.
All I bought was my jean jacket and my stage clothes that I wore on stage this weekend. So I'm a little underdressed for the weather.
You like me? When I do a show in certain clothes, if I do well in those clothes, I wear them on stage. But if I bomb in those clothes, or if I don't do well, I never wear those clothes again on stage.
See, I don't have that problem. I never bomb, Carl.
But I have that problem. I have my really good nights, but I have those nights where right.
Well, last night's show, I was telling Tiffany, I talked to Tiffany earlier today on the phone, and we had a large black Greensboro Comedy Club, the comedy club in Greensboro. Years ago, it was all white people. It was like just nonstop. It was a mainstream white person. Now it's turned over all black. Like the 99% of the people in the audience are black now. And I had a great time, man. I had great shows with them. They loved the show. It was great, man. Last night's show was rough though. The late show last night. Late shows are always rough.
Yeah. You got the people coming in half drunk.
The late shows are never fun. No. Comedians, man. You get that crowd. They come in and they're just not into it. You got pulled teeth for them late shows. So last night's show, I was rethinking my career, man. I ain't bomb, man, but it was they made my ass work really hard, man, to get those laughs.
Yeah, I mean, you got those. Yeah, you got those certain jokes that this is going to kill. And if it
the late shows, they don't kill, right? It is you tell that joke and do that routine, and they just looking at you like, all right, next. Hey, what the hell up in this joint?
Absolutely.
No, I had a good time, man. I had a good time. So get my ass home safely now. I'm in Pennsylvania, a bunch of deers and cops, and they both can kill you.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for checking us out on another Sunday. And again, I want to thank Michael Imhotep
thank you
for coming on the show. I want to thank Tiffany for getting us a great guest. Tiffany, you're 2-0. You had Professor Griff, and now you have Michael Imhotep, and you were both great guests. Great guests.
She's good at getting guests. She's horrible at getting restaurants.
There you go. Listen, I'm trying. Umar Johnson won $500. I don't got $500. He keep playing games with me. He won $500.
He's going to be in Boston November 30th. I'm going to go see him.
That's good. Go talk to him. Yeah.
Off the record called. We'll talk about that. We'll get him on the show if we want him on. If we need him on the show, we can make that happen. All right.
Well, y'all need to make it happen because I don't know how the other people was able to do that. And they not even black enough.
He's gonna help our numbers, then we'll have him on the show. It'd be worth the $500 if he can help our numbers.
Yeah, I'll find out. Don't worry about it. I'll get it. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for checking out our show. We truly appreciate you guys. Please like, share, subscribe, tell everyone about our show. You know what we do here every Sunday. We bring the truth. We're honest. We don't put anyone down. We don't, there's no bad vibes. I don't think anyone gets any bad vibes from our show because we're all about positivity.
Solutions.
Hey, Dr. Umar, we got $4.99.
Yeah.
$499. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. So I want to go talk to him. I mean, if there's one thing my dad taught me is don't be afraid of people. They're just people.
Right.
They're just people. And that helped me in my comedy. Has helped me throughout my entire life. So once again, thank you so much, and we love you. Kevin, love you, brother. Tiffany, I love you. Thank you guys so much.
Oh, shit.
Okay,
Y'all
guys.
already? Yeah.
All right.
Safe. Have a great
Kevin.
weekend. See y'all next Sunday. I'm back. Oh, damn. Okay. Shit, yeah. See y'all next Sunday. Another good show.
All right, everybody. Bye. Tiffany,
Peace
you
and love.
look beautiful tonight. I don't know what you did.
You said what?
I said you look beautiful tonight. I said I don't know what you did extra, but
Thank you.
you're
A lot of
welcome.
hairspray. A lot of hairspray. So.
Oh, it's not a hairspray, it's a good wig. I'm gonna look like Celie after this.
With the knowledge you gain, break away from the chains. We helping you grow the Black Therapy Show. We in a safe space, dealing with the black trauma. We unpacking it, affecting all our baggage and drama. Come about night, no more killing each other. It's time to see a new future for my sisters and brothers. You know, Kevin, Carl, and Tiffany, you'll have an epiphany. We'll give you everything you need to handle the enemy. We be giving you empathy, we gon' challenge you mentally. The right conversation so you grow exponentially. We built the penitentiary, we built up the schools. Gave a brainwash education, just making us fool. Hatred was what we got in exchange for love. No more manipulation from my God above. It's Carl, Kevin, and Tiffany. Now welcome to the Black Therapy Show. Let's go.